Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather. Happy Friday to you. We've got an upcoming holiday weekend and a lot to talk about. So, first, I'm going to focus on a very powerful storm that is roaring through the Western Pacific here, Super Typhoon Mawar. And this is the strongest May typhoon, I believe, on record or tied with it, with winds reaching 180 to 190 miles per hour. This is an enhanced visible image that was taken here overnight as Mawar continues to track westward over the Western Pacific. And here is a loop of the storm, and I really hope this comes through well on Zoom. It moved over Guam, the northern part of the island, here a couple of days ago. We may not get this to load here, and I apologize for that, but no worries. I will give you guys the link. Here is a view from last night. You can see the stadium effect here right on into the middle of the eye. A very powerful storm. Probably one of the strongest 50 cyclones we've seen on record in the world here, and it's only the month of May. Typhoons do happen in the month of May. Some of them can get pretty intense, but this has certainly been a busy start to the year. We had a typhoon hit Myanmar here a couple weeks ago. We had another one that tracked across the entire Indian Ocean, hit Madagascar, Malawi, Zimbabwe here back in the late winter for us. It was late summer for them. So this year is already getting off to just a tremendous start when it comes to cyclones. A big reason for that is El Nino strengthening here, and we could possibly be heading towards a strong El Nino. Now, this is, I don't want to say good news for the Atlantic Ocean, but it typically leads to stronger storms on the Pacific side, especially the Western Pacific, weaker storms on the eastern because of the fluctuation in water temperature. But just a very powerful storm. Here's another look at the infrared from tropicaltidbits.com. You can see just the massive eye. It's clear inside of it. Thank goodness this is not affecting land for the time being. I think down the road we've got some folks that are going to be on edge watching it. As it came across Guam here a couple days ago, fortunately it took just a bit of a right jog to bring the strongest winds off the coast. But I'm still seeing reports that the airport there is shut down for another week, and there's a lot of damage on the island, but fortunately not the kind of damage you're going to see in the eye wall of this storm. 180, 190 mile per hour winds. For those of you tracking at home, the estimated minimum central pressure is about 897 millibars. We only see a storm go below 900 millibars every maybe 5 years on average. We've already seen a couple of them here in the last few years. The strongest typhoon on record was Super Typhoon Tip, 870 millibars. Now, how in the world are those pressures measured in the middle of the ocean? I think it's kind of estimated, so a little subjective. However, you get the point here. This is a powerful storm. Winds are probably gusting over 200 miles per hour around the center of this. So a very intense storm. And here's where the track takes it. It's possible it'll fluctuate a little bit and may get a bit stronger in the next 24 hours, but then we're likely to see some weakening, slow weakening, still a very powerful storm over the Philippine Sea. This is the Philippines over here. Manila, the capital on the southern part of Luzon. Here's northern Luzon. It's sort of in the cone of uncertainty, but most of the model guidance takes it north of the Philippines, fortunately. Taiwan, it's going to be aimed at you for a while, but we're expecting some form of a recurve. And then here is Japan up here, and these are the Okinawa Islands. Iwo Jima, I think, is down in here. Kadena is over here. Right now, the track of the storm on the average of the models makes it recurve just east of these islands, but it's going to be dangerously close, and this could still change some. Japan needs to keep an eye on it. I do think we're going to have a much weaker storm by the time it gets up here. The waters are cooler. The wind shear is going to pick up, much like you would see in the Atlantic where storms weaken when they get into those cooler waters in a typical year. However, enough real estate here to certainly be on edge, and preparation should be taken now. Just in case the storm comes a little farther west in that cone, or it takes a little longer to weaken, or for some reason gets stronger here in the next 24 hours. So definitely something we're going to watch over the next several days here. That's why I'm leading off with it, because even though I focus on American weather, this is quite a weather maker. Now, in the U.S., we do have, actually, I was going to come back to that. I was going to show you guys models here. All right, sorry, I got my frames out of order. This is the official forecast from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Here's Taiwan. Here's the islands of Iwo Jima, Kadena. Forgive me, I'm just not as familiar with this part of the world. But we do have military bases here. We do run an Air Force base out here. Guam obviously has Anderson. So these folks are going to be probably going into shutdown mode here as we get to the middle part of next week, the 31st into June 1st, local here. So in America, obviously, we're a day behind. But you can see right now the cone of uncertainty does include Taiwan, northern Luzon, all of these islands here. Eventually, I think Japan could be in that as well as the storm weakens. But the forecast is for 70 knots. That is kind of a minimal typhoon, about 80 miles per hour. So it will be weakening by the time it gets up here. It's not going to hit here as a super typhoon. I was going to show you the other graphic I had. Where'd we go here? I'm sorry, I moved everything out of order today to kind of focus on this first. Here we go. This is from weatherbell.com, the HWRF model. This is a tropical model, and you can see the central pressure on this is forecast to get down to 888 millibars. This is a tropical model. So remember, I told you typhoon tip was 870. It's not going to get that deep, but it is going to be awfully deep here, 887. And here's kind of the track of the storm on the HWRF model. You'll see as we get to this weekend, the pressure slowly comes up and back into the low 900s. Still a very powerful typhoon. And then we're up to 920 before it even gets towards the Philippines, into the 940s by the time it gets between Taiwan and Japan here. So it is weaker. It's probably a category 3 or 4 at this point, and then continues to weaken and remains to the east of Taiwan as we get to next Wednesday here, probably taking that hard right turn and weakening down to about a category 1 or low end category 2. Here's a zoomed in view of it. Man, what a beautiful but terrifying picture here. As a meteorologist, I'm going to say we love to see things like this, but we love it when they stay over the water and don't impact land, because this we're hitting land right now. This would be just a catastrophe in the making here. But you can see the structure of the storm does not change much. It does start to finally, the eye wall does start to contract, and we see an eye wall replacement. That means the storm likely going to form a new eye wall that will be weaker at this point due to local forces inside the center of the storm. It can only maintain this kind of a structure for so long, but still a very powerful storm. Here's Taiwan, and fortunately taking a right turn here. These islands, I believe, are not nearly as populated, but obviously they're going to see incredible amounts of wind and surge and waves as this comes through here, and a lot of rain as well. And then it looks like the storm kind of starts opening up. You can see somewhat of a more ragged structure here by the time we get to the middle of next week. The pressure up to 969, so it's going to climb about 60 to 70 millibars in 5 days. That means the storm's going to weaken, fortunately for us here. All right, so I'm sorry for zipping past here. Let's take a look at the U.S. real quick. Big trough in the east, low pressure aloft here over the Florida Panhandle. That is going to continue to track southeast into Florida. Surface low pressure forming on our front here. I've talked about this for a few days now. Unlikely that we're going to get tropical development, but either way, we're looking at a very nasty storm. Chilly air for this time of the year, a lot of rain at the coast, and some winds picking up here. It's just going to be a really nasty Saturday into Sunday here across the Carolina coast and farther north as we get to Memorial Day. Big storm as well here in the high plains. New Mexico's seen a lot of severe weather. I'm going to talk about the risk for severe weather as well here. This is all kind of trapped in between this trough and this trough. So we do see some pretty active weather on the high plains here. They need the rain for sure. So we're going to talk about that. And from the Hurricane Center right now, a 10% chance of subtropical development, unlikely tropical. Is it possible? Sure. I mean, I've talked about it, but we've only got about a day and a half over water. The waters here are marginal. The wind shear is higher. And the air mass to the west of this is unseasonably cold. All of those kind of go against tropical development. But the impacts on the coast are the same. We're going to see coastal flooding. We're going to see heavy rain, high winds, just a really nasty weekend on tap here in the Carolinas. Big rainfall forecast here. As we look at the NAM, we can see over the next 60 hours the potential for quite a bit of rain offshore, 2 feet. Myrtle Beach now showing 5 inches of rain. Wilmington, 2 inches. Southport, 4 inches. Just one model. Yesterday, it showed this over Pender County. Now it's shifted a bit west into Horry County and far southwestern Brunswick. Notice how much rain is showing up over the mountains of North Carolina. All this moisture upglides. It's going to be just a chilly, wet, really sopping wet weekend here. Just a real, as my friend Mitch West calls it, a big fart bag of a storm. Really nasty. I'm going to talk about some temperatures here, but we do have some flood threat here to be concerned with up against the mountains. So if you are planning an extended weekend trip, maybe doing some hiking in the mountains, be prepared for what could be some very intense amounts of rain. The excessive rain forecast for Friday today, it is slight along the coastal bend here, from the basically just south of the Grand Strand on up to Pender County, Hampstead area, and a very marginal risk farther inland. Most of that's tonight. As we get to tomorrow, though, we have seen an expansion here of this flood threat, which gets all the way up to Raleigh, Greensboro, and Boone, and back to Greenville and Asheville, North Carolina, Columbia as well, in that slight risk, but a moderate risk here as we zoom into the coastal bend. That includes Horry County, Brunswick, New Hanover, and Pender counties all have the risk for seeing a moderate flash flooding with a lot of rain going. Is everybody going to see moderate flooding? I don't think so, but some of this area had a flood last Friday, I believe. So we definitely are already seeing some higher river waters in some of these areas on the Cape Fear. Again, that's a potential threat. So if you are in this area, I think you need to be very much on your toes for this weekend's weather. And then as we shift into Monday, Sunday actually, and into early Monday, we see still some rain. Some of that could be heavy, but really just a marginal risk, and that does spread northward, north of the James River into central parts of Virginia. Here's Monday. We're focusing mainly on southeastern Virginia and the eastern shore. And then Tuesday, we're not looking at any big threat for rain. Back in Texas, and in the high plains and into the interior of Rockies, we do have some flooding possible as well. I don't think it'll be as severe as what we're seeing on the southeast coast, but something to just keep in mind here. Here's total rain on the European. Sorry, I jumped around on you guys here. Just been a little bit crazy. We're seeing this heavy rain band on the European is actually still aimed at the Cape Fear River. 7, 8, 9 inches of rain possible. Bald Head Island up to Curie Beach, Fort Fisher, those areas, maybe all the way up to Wrightsville. So it just looks like a really nasty weekend here. This is through Sunday. Most of that rain is going to fall actually overnight tonight into tomorrow. We see the rain moving up 5 inches in Spartanburg, 4 to 5 inches in Forest City, even Charlotte, Raleigh, probably a couple inches of rain falls through this weekend. But there's going to be some areas that see higher amounts. The GFS model, kind of in line with the European. We're seeing 5 inches here, basically in the in the foothills region here between Spartanburg, Forest City, Lincolnton. We're going to see a lot of rain in this area. GFS has the Canadian, I should say, has 8 inches of rain in Myrtle Beach, 5 inches of rain in Southport, 2 to 3 in Wilmington. I don't know exactly who's going to see the heaviest rain, but we're obviously keying in on this area, but we do need to watch the foothills region as well. Even into southwestern Virginia and eastern Kentucky, this isn't going to be a nasty weekend. Knoxville could see a couple inches. Bristol, those areas here in the Tri-Cities could see a couple of inches, and we may see an inch or so as well. Moving up into Virginia, maybe higher amounts here on the North Fork and the Middle Peninsula. So we definitely need to be on the lookout here for heavy rainfall. Here's a look at wind gusts from the NAM. Some of these could be a little bit exaggerated, but still quite a bit of wind out here. Basically a tropical storm without the tropical core. So a nasty coastal storm here. Winds may gust over 50 miles per hour over the PD region, even into Charleston here. This is going to be tomorrow morning. So Myrtle Beach, just a nasty storm here. You can see kind of this feeder band here, and then you see the core of the storm south of Charleston. Comes right on up through the harbor here, and most of those winds will start to relax in the afternoon tomorrow. Still pretty windy, though, as this storm moves away on Sunday in North Carolina. South Carolina sees improvement on Sunday. Farther north, we'll see this wind piling up against the mountains. The Piedmont's only going to see gusts in the 30-mile-per-hour range. Fayetteville in the 40s. Florence could get up to 50. Jacksonville, Camp Lejeune could see 40, 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts here. Cherry Point as well. So just a really miserable, crappy weekend here, and definitely some winds. You know, even some of these wind gusts may be high enough for a few power outages. So just keep that in mind as well if you're in this region. And then finally, we'll look at temperatures, and they're heading downhill quickly here tonight into tomorrow. The NAM is showing 49 at daybreak tomorrow in Columbia. Man, when do you ever see that in late May? And still pretty chilly tomorrow. Daytime temperatures may struggle to get out of the 40s in upstate South Carolina and up to about Brevard and Pisgah Forest. 41 degrees tomorrow afternoon in late May, and we may see record low highs out of this. On the other side of the mountains, you're looking pretty here, though. Atlanta 70, Chattanooga 73 looks great. But on the cold side of the storm, it is just brutal. Man, Myrtle Beach, though, is going to see that warmer air moving in aloft. That's going to feed into that heavy rain, by the way. And dew points should shoot up to about 70 across this region. We'll have to keep an eye on maybe some stronger storms coming in, maybe a spout threat as well. But it will cool off aloft from this upper low coming in behind it here on Sunday. Farther north in North Carolina, I'm in Raleigh, and today's not looking bad. We'll probably get up to about 70, just like yesterday. Tomorrow, on the other hand, is just a total crappy day here. Upper 50s. Even Greensboro tomorrow afternoon may not get above 50. Charlotte around 50. Hickory 49. Johnson City upper 40s. So right under the upper low where it's raining, temperatures are going to take a big dive south here into the 40s and low 50s. They'll start warming a bit on Sunday. In the mountains, it's still going to be pretty chilly, though, during the day Sunday. Seeing some 40s up here in Ashe County and Watauga counties and Avery counties. 50s in the valley here along 26 here. And we are going to warm up near the coast close to 80. We'll have to keep an eye on maybe some thunderstorms popping up across this region. Speaking of storms, all the actions on the high plains as far as widespread severe weather. It doesn't mean we couldn't see isolated severe weather somewhere here in the southeast, including Florida. Enhanced risk later today into tonight, again over southeastern New Mexico, far west Texas. Slight risk all the way up across the border here and all the way down into the Trans-Pecos region. Real quick, I'll show you the radar. We saw a lot of severe weather around Clovis yesterday. More of these storms popping up around mid-afternoon east of Santa Fe, and we're going to see supercells, possible tornadoes into this evening, and then a break, and then more storms tomorrow, which could have some severe weather with them. Farther south, we are also going to see some intense storms over the Trans-Pecos. If you look at Hobbs and Clovis, that's where your tornado chance is high. Good place to storm chase here. There's a lot of open air here right on into this evening. Things will die off overnight, and we'll see additional storms firing in some of the same areas tomorrow, and some of those could be pretty intense as well. Could see some pretty big hail. Oklahoma, we're okay mostly. We could see a few thunderstorms later today into this evening, but nothing really severe. The Panhandle likely sees some severe weather overnight tonight, but tomorrow may actually be a little bit better chance as this kind of shifts eastward. You can see about mid-afternoon tomorrow around Childress and on up into the far eastern Panhandle and into far western Oklahoma around Elk City. We could see a few stronger storms, maybe a tornado or two in here as well. The upper level pattern here is going to continue to show a cooler than average setup here in the southeast over the next several days. And then the northeast cools off as well here in early June. The ridge backs up to the west. We see troughs moving into California. There will be severe weather again across this region. The southeast is going to see more heavy rain. This reminds me of how 2020 started. I don't think 2020 finishes like it did with 30 storms in the Atlantic. I'm probably half that, but just a very cool look to the early summer like we saw in 2020. That was a La Nina year. Now we've got the lingering warm waters of the ocean. So in the Carolinas and Florida and the southeast, we need to be on our alert for tropical activity. July and August, especially. September, it may start shutting down some, except in Florida. I think October, November are a lot quieter, especially in the Caribbean and out over the open Atlantic than what we saw in 2020. So half the storms, but they could be just as impactful. I mean, remember Hurricane Isaias and Hurricane Laura. It was a destructive season. And, seeing this pattern here kind of set itself up again, we definitely have to be on our toes for that. Notice, though, all the troughing here in the Pacific. This is from recurving Typhoon Mawar. What it's going to do is it's going to put a big dent in the jet stream and allow more intense storms to come in. That's going to lead to more extremes where we see even more colder than average temperatures for a while here in the eastern and southwest U.S. and even more heat building up over the western Arctic and western Canada and Alaska. So a more amplified pattern through about the 10th of June because of that typhoon. I think I showed you guys this already. Yes, I did. But how that's going to affect temperatures, well, the next 30 days will remain below average across the southwest, across the southeast, and will eventually moderate towards the end of June in the northeast. You can see how temperatures do trend uphill here some, but we're likely going to see some heat waves building up across Texas, the Midwest here for the second half of June. And the longer term forecast does shift that east into the eastern U.S. into July. So July could be pretty hot in the east and especially the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes, but June is where the heat's going to be across the plains, and the rain forecast is pretty dire here as well across this area. After such an active spring across places like Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa, we're now likely heading into a longer term drought, at least for the first half of the summer. The Southeast is going to be pretty wet, though, especially the Carolinas. We're going to continue to see wet weather over the Rockies and the high plains. But as we shift this along, we are going to see wetter weather here on the East Coast heading into the end of June and July. 4th of July, a wetter than average pattern over the Northeast and Great Lakes. We see the dryness starting to let up some, and we see a wetter pattern taking over the interior of the Northwest. This could change, but look how wet it's going to be off of Florida. Look how wet off the East Coast. There's where your tropical threats could end up being here in the next few months. I appreciate y'all's time today. Thank you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Please like this video, share with your friends. I try to do these every day. I will say on a personal note, I'm dealing with a lot with my family, with work. I'm really leaning on God to help me through all this. If you're a Christian person like I am, I of course give all the glory to God who's called me to do this. I ask for your prayers right now. I've got a relative who we just found out has a pretty nasty cancer that's growing in their liver, and I may be taking some time away to help deal with that. So I know a lot of you have put in prayer requests. I am praying for you. I'm just going to ask for some prayers though as I deal with some family situations here. I go to God in prayer every day. I thank him for allowing me to do this video. We're all humans. We all are going to deal with challenging times. Looks like that we're heading in that direction as well. But I'm going to Psalm 23:4 in the King James Version. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The NLT version of that, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. And this is a very comforting verse for me. I'm reading it to my relative when I get to see him. But we all go through dark valleys, but the Lord is with us, close behind us, protecting us from what may be a very uncertain and tumultuous time. And in the end, if you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, you are promised eternal life. No matter what happened on earth, you have those treasures up in heaven for you. And I wanted to share that good news with you. I don't want to end this on a down note. I want to end this in victory. We are victorious as Christians. If you're not a believer and you're struggling, I am very much want to pray for you. If you are a believer and you're struggling, that is expected. The Bible talks about many, many accounts of this. And you know, I'm just overcome with emotion right now, mentally and physically exhausted from a lot of traveling, but I want to serve you guys and just know that I care about all of you and each of you who has commented, who continues to support me. God favors you, and I just wanted to share that with you. So I hope you all have a great weekend. I'm going to try to do some videos right now. I've got to figure out what my next steps are, but my thoughts and prayers are with each and every one of you. And for those who have lost family members who have served, just know that Memorial Day means a lot to me, and I'm dedicating that day to remembering those who served and died in combat or not in combat as well. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll chat again soon. God bless you.